Slide 2. Plankton. Plankton are the most common kind of life in the ocean. Most plankton are tiny, microscopic, animals and algae, but plankton can be quite large. For example, jellyfish are plankton, and can have tentacles over 100 feet long. Algae are plant-like organisms. Plankton are organisms with two key characteristics. Plankton are floaters, they try to float, or at least sink very slow through ocean water. Plankton are drifters, they cannot swim or swim poorly, so ocean currents and waves push them around, and they cannot do anything about it. The word plankton means wanderers. Note that many plankton can swim, however, plankton are not very strong swimmers. In summary, plankton are not necessarily small and are not necessarily unable to swim. Plankton are floaters and drifters. Plankton are important in the ocean, because they are at the bottom of most ocean food chains. In other words, they are food for many ocean animals. There are two major categories of plankton, phytoplankton and zooplankton. Phytoplankton are algae, like plants, they make their own food using the energy in sunlight. Zooplankton are animals. Slide 3. Phytoplankton and photosynthesis. Phytoplankton are tiny, one-celled, algae, plant-like organisms that use sunlight as an energy source to make their own food in a process called photosynthesis, making with light. When they carry out photosynthesis, they use large amounts of water and the gas carbon dioxide to make carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are food molecules. Phytoplankton use the energy stored in carbohydrates, food molecules, to keep themselves alive. The energy in food molecules powers their bodies and supplies the energy needed to make the molecules needed to build and maintain their bodies, molecules like proteins and lipids, fats. Notice that phytoplankton also make oxygen when they carry out photosynthesis. We say that the oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis. In other words, the oxygen is an unwanted leftover. Phytoplankton are not trying to create oxygen when they carry out photosynthesis. Phytoplankton are trying to create food for themselves. The oxygen is just released into the water. This oxygen benefits ocean animals, who need oxygen to breathe, and it benefits land animals as well. A lot of the oxygen in ocean water leaks into the atmosphere. Most of the oxygen we and other land animals breathe comes from the ocean and is produced by phytoplankton. Phytoplankton need sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to carry out photosynthesis, to make food for themselves. Water is, of course, quite abundant in the ocean. Phytoplankton do not run out of water. Carbon dioxide is also abundant in ocean water, so phytoplankton almost always have enough carbon dioxide to carry out as photosynthesis. To get sunlight, phytoplankton need to be at the surface of the ocean. Recall that plankton are floaters. Phytoplankton float so that they can get lots of sunlight. In addition to sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, phytoplankton also need small amounts of nutrients, molecules that they use to build their bodies, for example, their shells and molecular tools that are needed to carry out photosynthesis. Unlike sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, nutrients are not used up during photosynthesis. Nutrients can be reused or recycled. Slide 4. There are many different kinds of phytoplankton. For example, some have calcium carbonate shells, for example, coccolithophores, some have silica shells, for example, diatoms, and some do not have hard shells. Some phytoplankton can even swim, for example, dinoflagellates. Sunlight and nutrients are the hardest things for phytoplankton to obtain in most parts of the ocean, so wherever there are both sunlight and nutrients, phytoplankton will be abundant. Sunlight is found at the surface of the ocean, so phytoplankton live at the surface. Most nutrients enter the ocean when nutrients in soil are washed off of the land and into the ocean by rain, so most phytoplankton live near the coasts. Animals are attracted to the surface and the coasts, because phytoplankton are at the bottom of the ocean food chain. This means that animals in the ocean eat phytoplankton or eat other animals which eat phytoplankton or eat the animals who eat the animals who eat the phytoplankton, You get the idea. In other words, phytoplankton make the food that everyone else needs. The food all animals eat only exists because of the food created by the phytoplankton carrying out photosynthesis. We call phytoplankton primary producers. They produce, organic material from inorganic material like carbon dioxide and water. In other words, they make living material from non-living material. This is the first or primary step in the food chain. Animals make the organic material of their bodies from the organic material that they eat. Slide 5. Nutrients. Phytoplankton need small amounts of nutrients, molecules that they use to build their bodies, for example, shells and molecular tools that are needed to carry out photosynthesis. Like a tool, nutrients are not used up in the process of photosynthesis. For example, a spatula is a tool that can be used to make a hamburger, but a spatula is not part of the hamburger, the food. The spatula, tool, can be reused again and again to make more hamburgers, more food. To make a spatula you might use substances like wood or metal. In this analogy, the nutrients are the wood or metal used to make the tool, the spatula. Examples of nutrients include nitrates, phosphates, and silica. If you are looking for a single word to describe nutrients, you can say that nutrients are fertilizers. Nutrients are not food or eaten by phytoplankton. Remember, phytoplankton make their own food. As you will observe under the microscope, phytoplankton have no tentacles, arms, or other structures with which to grab the extremely tiny nutrients. Instead they rely upon chance. The nutrients drift into their bodies through the holes in their shells and cell wall. Sunlight and nutrients are the hardest things for phytoplankton to obtain in most of the ocean. So wherever there are both sunlight and nutrients, phytoplankton will be abundant. Sunlight is most abundant at the surface of the ocean. Most nutrients enter the ocean when nutrients in soil are washed off of the land and into the ocean by rain. So, most phytoplankton live near the surface and near the coasts. Slide 6. Zooplankton and respiration. Zooplankton are animal plankton. Think about it, if you are going to the zoo, what are you going to see? Examples of zooplankton that you might have heard of include jellyfish and krill. A vast number of worms, snails, slugs, crustaceans, like crabs, and many more kinds of animals are zooplankton. Animals carry out the opposite of photosynthesis, a process that we call respiration. When animals respire, breathe, they take in oxygen and combine it with food, carbohydrates, which liberates energy from the carbohydrates. Their bodies use this energy to fuel their bodies, to make muscles flex for example. The energy is also used to make atoms and molecules join together to make the other molecules of their bodies, like the molecules in bone and muscle. Respiration produces water and carbon dioxide as byproducts. In other words, carbon dioxide and water are left over and released into ocean water after respiration occurs. Plants and algae also undergo respiration to utilize the food that they make, but plants and algae do more photosynthesis than respiration. In other words, they need to make more food than they use. Slide 7. Large animals, plankton, and the ocean food chain. Big ocean predators like sharks, tuna, dolphins, seals, and so on eat small fish and other small animals which eat zooplankton. Zooplankton eat phytoplankton. If the population of phytoplankton drops, zooplankton starve and die, and so do the animals who eat the zooplankton. Without phytoplankton, ocean animals would have little food, and there would be fewer fish and other animals for us to catch and eat. Oceanographers can observe where phytoplankton are common in the ocean using satellites. If there are lots of phytoplankton in the water looks greener, because phytoplankton are green. This allows oceanographers to predict where lots of fish and other animals will be found. Slide 8. Shells. Both phytoplankton and zooplankton often have shells. Their shells are often made of calcium carbonate and silica. Pure calcium carbonate is white, like our bones which are also made of calcium. Silica has the same chemical composition as glass and is light-colored as well, so it can be hard to tell calcium carbonate and silica apart just by looking at them. Most large animals that you can see with your eyes, like clams, make their shells out of calcium carbonate, not silica. Other atoms and molecules can be added to the shell to alter its color, sometimes just on the surface, so not all calcium carbonate shells appear white. Slide 9. Why phytoplankton are important. Big ocean predators like sharks, tuna, dolphins, seals, and so on eat small fish and other small animals which eat zooplankton. Zooplankton eat phytoplankton. If the population of phytoplankton drops, zooplankton starve and die, and so do the animals who eat the zooplankton. Without phytoplankton, ocean animals would have little food, and there would be fewer fish and other animals for us to catch and eat. As part of photosynthesis, phytoplankton add oxygen to ocean water. A lot of this oxygen leaks from the ocean into the atmosphere. At least half of the oxygen that you and I breathe was produced by phytoplankton. In addition, phytoplankton remove carbon dioxide from ocean water to carry out photosynthesis and make their shells. For example, the carbon in carbon dioxide is needed to make calcium carbonate. Humans have added large amounts of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere by burning fossil fuels like oil and natural gas, increasing its concentration in the atmosphere by over 33%. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It absorbs infrared light, heat, radiated to outer space by the Earth, trapping the heat. In other words, greenhouse gases keep heat from leaving the Earth, and thus make the world warmer. This greenhouse effect actually is a good thing, because it keeps our planet from becoming a giant ball of ice. However, by adding so much extra greenhouse gas to the atmosphere, humans are very likely to have caused the unusually fast warming over the past century. A large amount of the carbon dioxide that we add to the atmosphere leaks into the ocean where it no longer contributes to the greenhouse effect. Only carbon dioxide in the atmosphere keeps heat from leaving the Earth. By removing carbon dioxide from ocean water, phytoplankton create more space in the ocean water, allowing the ocean to absorb more carbon dioxide and reduce global warming. In other words, like trees and other plants on land, the phytoplankton in the ocean absorb carbon dioxide and thus cool down the planet. The dead remains of phytoplankton sink down to the bottom of the ocean and buried in mud. Over vast amounts of time, the phytoplankton bodies can become fossil fuels like oil and natural gas. So, you may be burning some phytoplankton remains when you drive your car. Similarly, the lights and air conditioner in your home may be powered by phytoplankton remains. The electricity in your mobile phone may have come from phytoplankton bodies. Don't forget to say thank you.